Welcome back. I'm Dylan Black. Joining us right now, two incredible guests. First of all, with the Canadian Veterinary Medical Association, Dr. Lynn Morgan. Hello, Dr. Morgan.
Hello, Dylan.
And we also have
Fox.
a friend. So Fox, tell us about Fox.
Fox is about a 1.5-year-old border collie, and he's our family dog, and he's been just a fantastic boy. So he's offered to come in, and he's going to try his best to behave as well as possible.
That's okay. Not all our guests behave, so
Yeah,
we're used to it around here. You are here today because we're talking about some very important things, and that's obviously protecting our animals.
That's right.
Very important. Just about everybody has a pet out there, most people anyway. So the 5 animal freedoms is what you want to base this conversation on?
That's right, yes. And of course, 5 animal freedoms. As a veterinarian, I've been more than just a veterinarian to dogs and cats. We also care for, obviously, food animals and birds and marine mammals and that sort of thing too. So the 5 animal freedoms apply to those guys too.
Okay.
And it's probably a useful thing to talk about them. Some of the conversation can be a bit more in depth about some of the things, but
that's okay.
Fundamentally, the first thing we have is adequate shelter, and that makes sense. We don't want to be tying dogs out in the yard forever. We want to make sure that they have a good life with us. Farm animals need protection just like you or I do. So I think most of us would be sort of have some idea of what that would look like.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And as you were mentioning, it obviously varies with
species.
Species, right? So
That's
if you're talking
right.
about fish, you're talking about proper.
That's right.
Farm animals, dogs. Okay. So do a lot of people then? Do you find as a veterinarian don't follow just that first one you're even talking about?
Well, I would be hopeful that most folks that are listening in today probably do, but you don't have to drive very far off into the country to see some poor dog tied up at a dog house, or not even just tied up in a yard. And certainly we don't see what goes on behind the scenes in some of the scenes about some of the animals that we actually eat. So I think it's just important to be mindful that we want to make sure that those animals are adequately cared for with respect to shelter.
And it's good to get this knowledge out as well in case people are first-time animal lovers or first-time pet owners.
That's right.
To do that. Okay, so do you want to talk about nutrition?
Well, nutrition, of course, that's a very hot topic, and I think we can keep it pretty neutral, though. Okay. Most of the pet foods that are out there now are pretty darn good. When I first started practice, there was a lot of nutritional deficiencies in many of the foods, but nowadays, most of the food that you can buy at the grocery store is perfectly adequate nutrition.
Okay.
And the same thing, you can get any kind of fancy dog, cat food that you like, but most of it's well balanced and is really not much of an issue. You just want to make sure that probably for the most part you're actually feeding food that is designed for animals. You can feed table scraps, but at least some of the diet should be animal food that's designed for dogs and cats. Yeah,
because I know, I mean, you always have the stereotype, right? Especially in holiday season or that, you get your uncle like feeding the dog, and so is that a danger though? Does it just depend on?
You know what I always say to my clients is that Fox gets table food. I make him work for it, but he does get table food.
He looks like he's in good shape.
I know it's a funny thing. He's actually worried right now. This is what his worriedness looks like. And
oh, really?
So, I know it's a funny thing.
My worried look is much different than this.
We're fortunate today and we'll talk about that later, but this is a worried dog right here.
Okay.
I know it's hard. And then starting to scratch and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure.
But you know what? I don't ever have an issue with people giving their pets table food as long as the majority of their diet is made for them in a nutritional way. Okay. And the same thing with farm animals. They obviously need to have fresh water daily and the kind of food that would be appropriate to feed them.
Okay. Socialization now, is that just as important for animals as it is for human beings?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
And I think, so the third one too, because we'll get to that. The third one, of course, is just appropriate veterinary care. Okay. And that doesn't mean that we need to, like there's lots of folks out there that might not be able to afford a high-end surgery, for example, for their pet, but you should be able to get your animal to a veterinarian to be vaccinated and looked at on a yearly basis. And some of the basic care that should be done for animals should be done. Okay. And those are the things we want to make sure that they don't have pain when they get older, or even as young animals, sometimes they have pain. So we want to make sure that they're cared for and that you can have a conversation with a veterinarian that might be able to guide you with respect to how you can best look after your pet.
So in the same regard as humans, I mean, humans go in for physicals, annuals, I guess. Like how often should you bring a pet and cat, dog?
Well, in a perfect world, you should bring them in every year. And fortunately, now we know a lot about vaccinations, and many of the vaccines we don't have to give every year. But it's a good thing they age a lot faster than we do. Like Fox is a year and a half, but if he was a person, he'd be like in his early 20s.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, so you know, if I brought him, so bringing him in every year is not a bad thing. Sometimes you just find stuff that you don't know is there, or there's new information I might be able to give you, or you might be able to ask some questions. I'm very interested in behavior myself, so I might ask you, so how's he doing? You know, does he get along with everybody? And if you have, well, he's kind of getting aggressive with other dogs, then I might be able to guide you a little bit as to how you could help him out with that. Yeah.
So we have about a minute and a half left. So do you want to go back to a socialization?
I do, because it's very important.
Yes, okay.
I was just speaking to your the fellow that was bringing everybody in here, and I said how nice and calm it was in here, and how fantastic you are at keeping people relaxed.
Thank you.
And so it's really important we do that for our animals too. So for example, Fox is looking fairly relaxed here right now, and I'll just give you an example. Hey, Fox, good boy, sit. So if I was going to go pet my dog, I can show you right now. I can pet Fox like this. Oh, you're such a good boy.
Wow.
And now he's going to be really anxious. But if I go and I pet my dog like this, and I'm calm with the way I pet him, then he's going to calm right down.
Calmer.
So a lot of the aggression that we see in dogs and cats and many animals is actually based in anxiety. And I think it's really important to know that we believe in using positive motivation for training animals. There really should not be pain or punishment involved in the training of animals anymore.
Oh, for sure.
We have grown up out of that. We don't hit kids anymore. We don't use rulers snapped on people's hands in classes anymore, and we shouldn't be doing that for our animals.
I couldn't agree more. Just over 30 seconds, normal behavior as well. It's important that animals express what they're...
So let's just speak to cats. So of course, you know, there's the farm animals that we always have to be mindful of, but for cats, for example, most cats are really happy living inside, but you need to let them engage in normal behavior. So building shelves up on walls so they can jump up on the shelves, feeding them in little feeding balls so they can push the ball around to hunt for the food. So we can make sure that our animals can engage in what they would consider normal behavior.
Awesome. Well, he behaved quite lovely. I'm very impressed. This is his first. More details, CanadianVeterinarians.net. Thank you, Dr. Lynn Morgan, and thank you, Fox. Yeah, he was great. Thanks so much. Coming up next on Daytime, we have a personal trainer on the show to keep us fit and happy next on Rogers TV.